Hello everyone. Today, my partner Kierstin and I are going to talk about the social aspects of later life. Its objectives is to educate, internalize, and consider. Theories of psychosocial aging. Aging is an individual process involving various changes in physical, cognitive, and mental health. So what is the goal of healthy aging? Healthy aging is growing old by avoiding disease, being engaged with life, and maintaining high cognitive and physical functioning. It is also measurable in both terms of specific health metrics, cognitive performance, and other behaviors, and subjective well-being. Competence and environmental press. Competence is the upper limit of a person's ability to function in 5 domains: physical health, sensory perceptual skills, ego strength, cognitive skills, and motor skills. For environmental press, it refers to the physical, interpersonal, or social demands that environment puts on people. Both competence and environmental press changes as people move through the lifespan. If you saw the figure 15.1 from the book, you can clearly see how the two are related. Adaptation level is the area where press level is average for a particular level of competence. Slight increases in press tend to improve performance, and it is labeled as the zone of maximum performance potential. Slight decreases in press create the zone of maximum comfort in which people are able to live happily without worrying about the environmental demands. Lawton 1989 and Nahimo 2000 said that people respond in 2 basic ways: proactivity and docility. Proactivity is when people choose new behaviors to meet new desires or needs and exert control over their lives. Meanwhile, docility is when people allowed their situation to dictate the options they have. Lawton argues that proactivity is more likely to occur in people with relatively high competence and docility in people with relatively low competence. It is also said that the competence and environmental press model has been the basis for evaluating and optimizing living situations with people who have severe cognitive impairments, such as those of Alzheimer's disease, Dalton 2014. Preventive and Corrective Proactivity Model, or the PCP, explains how life stressors and lack of good congruence in person-environment interactions, especially when the person has nothing to help buffer or protect against these things, result in poor life outcomes. Example of life stressors such as life events and chronic illness. Kahana and Zhang 2005 describe the 2 types of proactive adaptation: preventive and corrective. Preventive adaptations are actions that avoid stressors and increase or build social resources. Good example is increasing one's social network by adding friends. Corrective adaptations are actions taken in response to stressors and can be facilitated by internal and external resources. Good example also is adaptation in changing one's diet after having a heart attack. Integrity versus despair. As people enter late life, they begin the struggle of integrity versus despair, which involves the process by which people try to make sense of their lives. According to Erickson, 1982, they try to understand their lives in terms of the future of their family and community. Thoughts of a person's own death are balanced by realizations that they will live on through children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and community as a whole. This realization produces what Erickson calls a life-affirming involvement in the present. The struggle of integrity versus despair requires people to engage in a life review, the process by which people reflect on the events and experiences of their lifetimes. To achieve integrity, a people must come to terms with the choices and events that made his or her life unique. There must also be an acceptance of the fact that one's life is drawing to close. People who are unsure whether they made the right choices concerning their children, for example, now feel satisfied that things worked out well. In contrast, others feel bitter about their choices, blame themselves or others for their misfortunes, see their lives are meaningless, and greatly fear death. These people end up in despair rather than living with integrity. Well-being and emotion. Subjective well-being is an evaluation of one's life that is associated with positive feelings. According to Oswald and Wu 2010, a subjective well-being is usually assessed by measures of life satisfaction, happiness, and self-esteem. Have you ever tried asking yourself about what happens next, on what is the meaning of life? Or why do bad things happen to good people? Why are we suffering? Spirituality is the context in which most people search for meaning and answers to these questions. Spirituality can inform all aspects of meaning, informing beliefs, and providing ultimate motivation and primary goals for living and guidelines for achieving those goals, along with a deep sense of purpose and mattering. Individual sense of spirituality develops across adults. Thomas Merton and Richard Rohr both describe this process as a progression from false hope to the true self. What does being retired mean? Retirement means different things to men and women and to people in different ethnic groups and career. Part of the reason it is difficult to define retirement precisely is that the decision to retire involves the loss of occupational identity with no obvious replacement for that loss. That's why researchers view retirement as another one of many transitions people experience in life. Why do people retire? Some people retire by choice than for any other reasons, as long as they feel financially secure after considering projected income from Social Security, pensions, and other structured retirement programs, and personal savings. But of course, some people are forced to retire because of health problems or because they lose their jobs. As corporations downsize during economic downturns or after corporate mergers, some older workers accept buyout packages involving supplemental payments if they retire.
In adjustment to retirement, new patterns of personal involvement must be developed in the context of changing roles and lifestyle in retirement. People's adjustment to retirement evolves over time as a result of complex interrelations involving physical health, financial status to the degree the retirement was voluntary, and feeling of personal control. In employment and volunteering, this life change means retirees must look for ways to adapt to new routines and patterns while maintaining social integration and being active in various ways. In the employment and late life, the relationship between age and job performance is extremely complex. This is because it depends a great deal on the kind of job one is considering, such as one that requires a great deal of physical exertion or one that involves a great deal of expertise and experience. In general, older workers shows more reliability, organizational loyalty, and safety-related behavior. In volunteering, changing characteristics of social networks, developing a new aspect of the self, finding a personal sense of purpose, desiring to share one's skill and expertise, redefining the nature and merits of volunteer work, and having a more highly educated and healthy population of older adults, along with greatly expanded opportunities for people to become involved in volunteer work they enjoy. In this section, we consider many of the relationships that older adults have, whether it is friendship or family ties. Having relationships with others is what keeps people connected. We have seen throughout this text how our lives are shaped by others and how we share the company of others. The term social convoy is used to suggest how a group of people journeys with us throughout our lives, providing support in good and bad times. People from the convoy, and under ideal conditions, that convoy provides a protective, secure cushion that permits people to explore and learn about the world, especially for older adults. The social convoy also provides a source of affirmation of who they are and what they mean to others, which leads to better mental health and well-being. Friendships. Based on a study, older women have more numerous and more intimate friendships than older men do. There are some important differences in later life. So the quality and purpose of late life friendships are particularly important. Friends are sometimes even more important to older adults, in part because older adults do not want to become burden to their families. As a result, friends help each other foster independence. In the case of online friendships, trust develops on the basis of four sources. First, reputation. Second, performance, or what users do online. Third, pre-commitment through personal self-disclosure. And fourth, situational factors, especially the premium placed on intimacy and the relationship. Sibling. A special type of friendship exists with one's siblings. They are the friends who people typically have the longest and with whom people share the closest bonds. The centrality of siblings in later life depends on several things: proximity, health, and degree of relatedness. What is also clear is that sibling relationships in later life are affected by events in the lives of the siblings that may have occurred decades earlier. Socio-emotional selectivity. This is a theory that argues that social contact is motivated by a variety of goals, including information seeking, self-concept, and emotional regulations. These goals is differentially salient at different points of the adult lifespan and results in different social behaviors. Marriage and same-sex partnerships. Marital satisfaction in long-term marriages, that is, marriages of 40 years or more, is a complex issue. In general, marital satisfaction among older couples increases shortly after retirement, but then decreases with health problems and advancing age, and is directly related to the level of perceived support each partner receives. It is positively related to the degree of social engagement, such as interaction with friends. Older couples have a reduced potential for marital conflict and greater potential for pleasure, are more likely to be similar in terms of mental and physical health, and show fewer gender differences in sources of pleasure. The married singles concept. Many older couples have simply developed detached, contented styles. The dyadic coping strategies. Coping strategies that rely on the interconnectedness of the couple. Older married couples develop adaptive ways to avoid conflict and grew more alike. For the LGBT community is at least as diverse as the heterosexual community and needs to be understood as such. Little research has been conducted examining the development of transgender and gender non-conforming (TGNC) individuals across adulthood. Caring for a partner in sickness and in health. Most of them envisions the sickness part to be no worse than an illness lasting a few weeks. That may be the case for many couples, but for others, the illness they experience severely tests their pledge. Caring for a chronically ill partner presents different challenges from caring for a chronically ill parent. The partner caregiver assumes the new role after decades of shared responsibilities, often without warning. The division of labor that had worked for years must be readjusted. Such change inevitably puts stress on the relationship. Widowhood. Older married couples see their marriages end legally when one partner dies. Loneliness is a major problem. Widowed people may be left alone by family and friends who do not know how to deal with a bereaved person. Financial struggle. Widows often suffer more financially because survivors' benefits are usually only half of their husband's pension. Remarry. A newer variation on repartnering is living alone together, an arrangement where two older adults form a romantic relationship but maintain separate living arrangements. Great-grandparenthood. Grandparenting is an important and enjoyable role for many adults. The three aspects of great-grandparenthood appear to be most important. First, being a great-grandparent provides a sense of personal and family renewal, important components for achieving integrity. Second, great-grandchildren provide new diversion in great-grandparents' lives. Third, becoming a great-grandparent is a major milestone, a mark of longevity that most people never achieve. Social issues and aging. Frail older adults. Older adults over age 85 are more likely to be frail and to need help with basic daily activities. These older adults who have physical disabilities are very ill, may have cognitive or psychological disorders, and need assistance with everyday tasks. People whose competence is declining. They do not have one specific problem that differentiates them from their active, healthy counterparts. Instead, they tend to have multiple problems. The everyday competence. This is an assessment consists of examining how well people can complete activities of daily living and instrumental activities of daily living, and whether they have other physical limitations. There are 3 assessments under everyday competence. First, the activities of daily living, or ADLS, include basic self-care tasks such as eating, bathing, toileting, walking, or dressing. A person can be considered frail if he or she needs help with one or more of these tasks. Second is the instrumental activities of daily living, or IADLS, or actions that entail some intellectual competence and planning. Third, the physical limitations, or PLIMS, activities that reflect functional limitations such as walking a block or sitting for about 2 hours. What causes functional limitations and disability in older adults? According to Strawbridge and colleagues, a classical longitudinal study was conducted. They found that smoking, heavy drinking, physical inactivity, depression, social isolation, and fair or poor perceived health predicted who would become disabled in some way. According to Verbrugge and Jett, lack of physical activity is a powerful predictor of later disability, and with higher rates of cancer, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and obesity, all of which results in higher rates of disability and premature death. So how important are socioeconomic factors? Research indicates a fairly strong and consistent relationship between socioeconomic status and health-related quality of life. Across all racial and ethnic groups, more affluent older adults have lower level of disability and higher health-related quality of life than individuals in lower socioeconomic groups. How does disability in older adults differ globally? So as the number of older adults rises around the world, the number of people with disability or functional limitation does too. Also, the rates of disabilities are higher in low-income countries and among women. In housing options, it is important to feel a sense of place. This refers to the cognitive and emotional attachment that a person puts on his or her place of residence, by which a house is made into a home. Making a change in where people live and having psychological disconnect with a place where they have lived for many decades can be difficult and traumatic. There is no question, people develop attachments to place, develop a sense of place, and derive a major portion of their identity from it. Aging in a place provides a way for older adults to continue finding aspects of self-identity and where they live, and to take advantage of support systems that are established and familiar by balancing environmental press and competence through selection and compensation. Function of health refers to the ability to perform the activities of daily living, ADLS, instrumental activities of daily living, IADLS, and physical limitation, PLIMS. As a person's functional health diminishes, the level of support needed from the environment increases, and the optimal housing situation changes. Assisted living provides a supported living arrangement for people who need assistance with ADLS or IADLS, but who are not so impaired physically or cognitively that they need 24-hour care. Assisted living facilities provide a range of services and care, but they are not designed to provide intensive around-the-clock medical care. As residents become frailer, their needs may go beyond those the facility can provide. Nursing homes is a type of long-term care facility that provides medical care 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, using a team of healthcare professionals that includes physicians, nurses, therapists, and others. Placement decisions can occur in reaction to a crisis, such as a person's impending discharge from a hospital or another health emergency, or can be the outcome of many months or even years of conversation among family members. Selecting a nurse home should be done carefully. First, the most important thing to consider are quality of life for residents. Whether residents are well groomed, the food is tasty, and room contains comfortable furniture. Second, quality of care. Whether staff members respond quickly to calls, whether staff and family are involved in care decisions. Third, safety. Whether there are enough staff members, whether hallways are free of clutter. Third, other issues. Whether outdoor areas are available for residents to use. In response to the need to provide support for older adults who require assistance with ADLS and IADLS, and their desire to age in place, new approaches to housing options have emerged that provide both. For example, the Eden Alternative seeks to eliminate loneliness, helplessness, and boredom from the lives of those living in long-term care facilities and to create a community in which life is worth living. Second, the Greenhouse Project creates small neighborhood integrated homes for 6 to 10 residents in which older adults receive a high level of personal and professional care. Elder abuse and neglect. The most common type is the physical abuse. Use of physical force that may result in bodily injury, physical pain or impairment, sexual abuse, non-consensual sexual contact of any kind, emotional or psychological abuse, infliction of anguish, pain, or distress, financial or material exploitation, illegal or improper use of an older adult's funds, property, or assets, abandonment, desertion of an older adult by an individual who had physical custody or otherwise had assumed responsibility for providing care for the older adult, neglect, refusal or failure to fulfill any part of a person's obligation or duties to an older adult, self-neglect, behaviors of an older adult that threatens his or her health or safety, excluding those conscious and voluntary decisions made by a mentally competent and healthy adult. Researchers estimate that perhaps 1 in 4 vulnerable older adults are at risk for some type of abuse, neglect, or exploitation. Unfortunately, only a small proportion of these cases are reported. Social Security was an initiative by President Franklin D. Roosevelt. It is to frame a law which will give some measure of protection to the average citizens and to his family against the loss of a job and against poverty-ridden old age. Social Security was originally intended to provide a supplement to savings and other means of financial support. There are 2 key things that have changed since then. First, the proportion of people who reach age 65 has increased significantly. Second, the revision to the original law have changed Social Security so it now represents the primary source of financial support after retirement. Medicare is a tax that is applied to one's entire salary. And to be eligible, a person must meet one of the following criteria. First, be over age 65. Second, be disabled or have permanent kidney failure. Medicare consists of 3 parts. First, that it covers inpatient hospital services, skilled nursing facilities, home health services, and hospice care. Part B covers the cost of physician services, outpatient hospital services, medical equipment and supplies, and other health services and supplies. Third, that provides some coverage for prescription medication. Still, with all this funding, there is a problem facing Medicare that are similar to those facing Social Security and are greatly exacerbated by the aging of the baby boomers. In addition, Medicare costs have increased dramatically as a result of the rapidly increasing cost of healthcare. And this is the end of our presentation. Thank you for watching, and we hope that you learned something from us.